The old house stood at the far edge of Hollow Creek Road, where the asphalt thinned into gravel and the trees grew so thick they seemed to swallow the sky. For 19 years, the house had been empty. Or at least, that's what everyone said. Locals avoided even looking at it. Delivery drivers refused to stop nearby. Kids dared each other to walk up the rusted gate, but none ever made it past the broken fence. And no one, not a single person in Hollow Creek, ever spoke about the small wooden cabin behind the main house. It was simply known as the locked cabin. No one asked about it until the new family arrived. The Ahmed family moved in during late October, just as the leaves turned brittle and the air carried that strange, quiet chill before winter. It was a fresh start for them, new town, new home, new beginning. Imran Ahmed had gotten the house at a price so low it felt like a mistake. Even the real estate agent seemed uneasy during the deal, avoiding eye contact whenever Imran asked questions about the property's history. Old house, the agent had muttered. Needs work, but it's solid. That was it. No details, no explanations. But Imran didn't care. After years of struggling in the city, this felt like a blessing. His wife, Sana, wasn't so sure. There's something off about this place, she whispered on their first night, standing by the kitchen window. Her eyes were fixed on the darkness beyond the backyard. Imran laughed it off. It's just quiet. You're not used to it. But Sana didn't respond, because she wasn't looking at the trees. She was looking at the cabin. It sat about 30 yards behind the main house, half hidden behind a cluster of dead oak trees. Smaller than a shed, built from dark, weathered wood, and completely sealed. No windows, no visible handle, just a thick, iron lock hanging on the front door, rusted, but intact. Even in daylight, the cabin felt wrong. Their son, 12-year-old Zion, noticed it immediately. Can I check it out? He asked excitedly, dropping his backpack on the first day. No, Sana said instantly. Imran chuckled. Relax, it's just an old storage cabin. But when he stepped closer to it later that afternoon, something made him stop. The air around the cabin felt colder. Not just cool, unnaturally cold. And there was a smell. Faint, but unmistakable, like damp wood mixed with something metallic. He reached out to touch the lock, and suddenly felt a sharp sting in his fingers, like static electricity. Imran pulled his hand back quickly. Strange, he muttered. Behind him, the wind picked up. Or at least, it sounded like wind. Because the trees weren't moving. That night, things got worse. At exactly 2:17 a.m., Sana woke up. At first, she didn't know why. Then she heard it, a soft, dragging sound. Coming from outside, she sat up slowly, heart pounding. Imran, she whispered, shaking him. But he didn't wake. The sound continued. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Like something being dragged across wood. Her eyes moved toward the window. Toward the backyard. Toward the cabin. And that's when she saw it. The cabin door was open. Sana froze. She was sure, absolutely sure, that it had been locked earlier. But now, the door stood slightly ajar, darkness spilling out from inside like thick smoke. And something was moving, not outside, but just inside the doorway. A shadow, tall, still, watching. Sana couldn't breathe. She tried to scream, but the sound got stuck in her throat. And then, the cabin door slowly creaked shut on its own. Click. The lock swung back into place. The next morning, everything looked normal. The cabin was closed, the lock untouched. No footprints, no signs of anything unusual. Imran brushed it off again. You probably had a nightmare. But Sana knew what she saw. And deep down, Zion felt it too, because when he walked past the backyard later that day, he stopped. And stared at the cabin. For a long moment, before quietly whispering, someone's inside. That was the moment everything changed. Because later that evening, they found something scratched into the back door of the house. Something that hadn't been there before. 3 words. Deep, jagged, fresh. Don't open it. The words on the back door didn't fade. They didn't smudge, and they definitely hadn't been there before. Imran stood frozen, staring at the deep scratches carved into the wood. Don't open it. Each letter looked like it had been gouged in with something sharp, or something desperate. The edges were rough, splintered outward, as if whoever wrote it had been in a hurry, or in fear. This isn't funny, Imran said, his voice tight. Sana shook her head immediately. You think I did that? Zion stepped back, his face pale. I didn't touch anything. For a moment, none of them spoke. The house felt different now. Heavier, Like the walls were holding their breath. Imran grabbed a cloth and tried to wipe the message away. It didn't budge. He pressed harder. Nothing. It was as if the words had sunk into the wood itself. "All right," he muttered, stepping back. "Enough of this." He turned toward the backyard. Toward the cabin. "This ends today." "No," Sana said quickly, grabbing his arm. "Imran, don't. It's just an old building," he snapped. "Someone's messing with us. Maybe some local kids. I'm not going to let this turn into some stupid ghost story." But even as he said it, he didn't fully believe it. Still, he walked forward. Each step toward the cabin felt heavier than the last. The ground beneath his feet seemed colder, harder. And that smell, that same metallic, damp smell, it was stronger now. Zion and Sana watched from the back door. "Papa, please," Zion whispered. Imran didn't turn back. He reached the cabin, stood in front of it, and stared at the lock. Still rusted, still closed, still exactly as it had been. "See," he called out. Nothing. But as he reached for the lock again, he hesitated, for just a second, because something felt wrong, not outside, but inside his head, a strange pressure, like a quiet voice, whispering, "Don't." Imran clenched his jaw. "I'm not playing along," he muttered, and grabbed the lock. This time, the sting was worse, much worse. It shot up his arm like a surge of electricity, forcing him to gasp and pull back. "What the?" Behind him, a loud thud echoed from inside the cabin. Imran froze. The sound wasn't random, it was deliberate, like something had just hit the door. From the inside, slowly, very slowly, Imran stepped back. "Did you hear that?" Sana shouted from the house. "Yes," he replied quietly. Another sound followed, closer this time. Tap, tap, tap. 3 slow knocks. From inside the cabin, Zion grabbed his mother's hand tightly. "Mama, there's someone in there." "No," Sana whispered, but her voice trembled. "No, that's not possible." But it was, because the knocks came again. Louder, more aggressive. Bang, bang, bang. The entire cabin door shook violently. And then, silence. Imran backed away completely now. His face had gone pale. "We're calling someone," he said. "Police, neighbors, anyone." But when he turned around, an old man was standing near the fence. Watching them, none of them had seen him arrive. He just was there. Tall, thin, wearing a worn-out brown coat and a cap pulled low over his eyes. His face looked aged far beyond his years. And his expression was not curiosity, it was fear. "You shouldn't have touched it," the old man said quietly. Imran frowned. "Who are you?" "I live down the road," he replied. "Been here longer than anyone." His eyes shifted toward the cabin. Then quickly, away, as if even looking at it was dangerous. "What is that place?" Sana asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The old man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, lowered his voice, and said, "That cabin was never meant to be opened." A cold silence fell over them. Imran crossed his arms. "Look, I don't believe in this nonsense. If someone's inside, no one is inside," the old man cut him off sharply. The way he said it sent a chill down their spines. "Then what's making those sounds?" Zion asked. The old man slowly looked at him for a long moment, then said something none of them expected. "It's not trying to get out." He paused, his eyes locking onto the cabin again. "It's trying to get you in." The wind suddenly picked up. This time, the trees moved violently, as if something unseen had rushed through them. And from the cabin, a long, low creaking sound echoed again. Imran swallowed hard. For the first time since they arrived, he didn't have an explanation. And that night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., the knocking returned. But this time, it wasn't coming from the cabin. It was coming from inside the house. At exactly 2:17 a.m., the sound came again. Knock, knock, knock. But this time, it wasn't outside. It wasn't coming from the cabin. It was coming from inside the house. Sana's eyes snapped open. Her body went rigid as the sound echoed through the hallway. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, deliberate, and too close. "Imran," she whispered, her voice shaking. This time, he woke instantly. Because he heard it too. They both sat up in silence, listening, waiting. Knock, knock, knock. From the living room, Zion's door creaked open across the hallway. "Papa," his small voice called out. "Is that you?" "No," Imran said quickly. "Stay in your room." But it was too late. Zion had already stepped into the hallway. And the knocking stopped. Silence filled the house. Thick, heavy, unnatural. Imran slowly got out of bed. Every instinct in his body told him not to move. But he couldn't just stand there. Not with his son out there. He stepped into the hallway. Sana right behind him. Zion stood near the living room entrance, frozen in place. His eyes were locked on something. Something inside. What is it? Imran whispered. Zion didn't answer. He just raised his hand and pointed. Imran turned and felt his stomach drop. The back door, the same door where the message had been scratched, was wide open. Cold air poured inside. The curtains moved slowly, like something had just passed through. That's not possible, Sana whispered. I locked it, Imran said. I checked it myself, but the lock now hung loose. Broken, twisted, as if it had been forced open from the outside. Or, from the inside. And then, they heard it, right behind them. Knock, knock, knock. All three of them turned slowly toward the hallway wall. The sound wasn't coming from a door or a window. It was coming from inside the wall. Zion let out a small, terrified gasp. Something's in there. The knocking grew louder, more urgent. Bang, bang, bang. The wall itself trembled slightly with each hit. Dust fell from the ceiling. Back up, Imran shouted, pulling them away. They stumbled toward the front of the house. But the sounds followed them. Moving, shifting, like whatever was inside, was crawling through the walls. From the hallway, to the kitchen, to the living room, tracking them. Make it stop, Sana cried. I don't know how, Imran shouted back. And then, it stopped. Just like that, complete silence. For a moment, nothing moved. No one breathed. And then, Zion spoke, very quietly. It's in my room. Sana's heart dropped. No. Without thinking, Imran ran down the hallway, straight to Zion's room. The door was slightly open. The darkness inside felt thicker than it should be. Heavy, like it was alive. Stay back, Imran said, and pushed the door open. At first, nothing. Just a normal room. Bed, desk, closet, and then, kriak. The closet door slowly opened on its own. Imran froze. His breath caught in his throat. Inside the closet, there was no clothes, no shelves, no back wall, just darkness, deep, endless, and from within it, something moved. Two long, thin shapes, like arms, stretching outward, slowly, reaching. Sana screamed. Zion collapsed to his knees. Imran grabbed his son and pulled him back just as the thing lunged forward. A loud slam echoed as the closet door shut violently on its own. Everything went silent again. For several seconds, no one moved. No one spoke. Then, a soft sound came from the door. Tap. Imran stared at it, breathing heavily. Tap, tap, and then, a whisper, low, broken, coming from inside the closet. Open. Sana shook her head violently. No, 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 no. But the voice came again. Clearer this time. Let me out. Zion buried his face into Imran's chest. It sounds like someone, he cried. It sounds like someone's trapped. Imran didn't respond, because deep down, he knew something horrifying. That voice, it didn't sound like a stranger. It sounded like him, Imran. His blood ran cold. Opened the door, and then, from outside, from the backyard, from the direction of the cabin, a loud metallic clang echoed, as if the lock had just fallen. The metallic clang echoed through the night. Sharp, heavy, final. Imran's head snapped toward the window. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. No, he whispered, because he already knew what that sound meant. The cabin, the lock, it was gone. Stay here, he said quickly, placing Zion behind him. But Sana grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin. Don't go out there, she pleaded. Whatever that thing is, it wants you to. Before Imran could respond, the closet door behind them rattled violently. Bang, bang, bang. Imran, the voice groaned from inside. You opened it. I didn't, he shouted back without thinking. And the moment he said it, everything went silent, too silent. Then, a new sound. Footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from outside the house. All three of them turned toward the back door. Still wide open, still letting that cold, unnatural air seep inside. Step, step, step. Something was walking across the backyard, heading straight for the house. Sana covered her mouth, trying not to scream. Zion clutched Imran tightly. A shadow passed by the window. Tall, thin, wrong. It stopped right outside the door. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, knock, knock, knock. The same pattern, the same rhythm. Imran's face went pale. That's the same knock, he whispered. From the cabin, the knocking came again, slower this time, more deliberate. Knock, 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 and then, a voice, from the other side of the door. I'm home. Sana shook her head violently. No, no, that's not real. But Zion looked up, confused, terrified. Papa, he whispered, because the voice sounded exactly like Imran. Imran stepped back slowly, his breathing uneven. That's not me, he said. Don't open that door, no matter what. The handle of the back door started to turn, click, but the door didn't open. Instead, the knocking stopped, silence again, and then, from inside the house, right behind them, knock, knock, knock. All three of them froze. The sound was coming from the living room. No, Sana whispered, it's already inside. Slowly, they turned, and there, standing in the middle of the living room, was Imran, or something that looked exactly like him. Same face, same clothes, same expression, but his eyes were completely black. Zion screamed, that's not Papa. The real Imran stepped in front of them. Instantly, don't look at it, he shouted, but it was too late. The thing smiled, a slow, unnatural smile, stretching far wider than a human face should allow. You opened it, it said softly. I didn't, Imran shouted again. The thing tilted its head, almost curious. Not yet, it replied. And then, it pointed, toward the backyard, toward the cabin. The door of the cabin now stood wide open, completely dark inside, and something was moving within that darkness. Shapes, shadows, many of them, watching, waiting. The thing that looked like Imran spoke again. This time, its voice wasn't just his. It was layered, like many voices speaking at once. It only takes one. Suddenly, the closet door in Zion's room burst open. A long, black arm shot out, grabbing Zion by the leg. He screamed, "Save me!" Imran lunged forward, grabbing his son. But the force pulling him back was inhuman. Sana screamed, trying to help. But the shadows began spilling out of the hallway walls. Reaching, crawling, closing in. The thing in the living room stepped closer. Calm, smiling. Open the cabin, it whispered. And this stops. Imran looked at Zion, being dragged inch by inch toward the darkness. Looked at Sana, crying, helpless, and then, looked toward the cabin, the open door, the endless black inside. He had a choice, and deep down, he knew, this was never about keeping something in. It was about choosing who it takes. Zion's fingers slipped, just a little, but enough to send a shock of panic through Imran's entire body. Hold on, Imran roared, tightening his grip with everything he had. But the thing pulling Zion, it wasn't slowing down. The shadows had grown stronger, thicker, now spilling fully out of the hallway, crawling across the floor like living smoke. Wrapping around Zion's legs, pulling, dragging, hungry. Sana clung to him, screaming, trying to pull him back. But it was useless. Open the cabin, the voice echoed again, from everywhere, from the walls, from the ceiling, from inside their heads. Imran looked up. The thing that looked like him stood only a few feet away now. Smiling wider, watching, waiting. One goes free, one takes their place. Imran's heart stopped. That was the truth, the rule, the price. For 19 years, no one had opened the cabin. No one had asked questions. Because someone already had, and something had been taken. That's why the house had stayed empty. That's why the cabin had remained locked. Because whatever was inside didn't leave. It waited. For someone new, for someone desperate enough to make the same mistake. Imran, please, Sana cried, do something. Zion screamed again, his body now halfway dragged into the darkness of the hallway. The shadows tightening, closing, almost swallowing him whole. Imran made his decision. Let him go, he shouted suddenly. Everything froze, even the shadows paused. Sana looked at him in horror. What are you saying? Imran stepped forward slowly, his eyes locked on the thing wearing his face. I'll open it, he said. The creature smiled, wider, deeper. Good, it whispered. No, Sana screamed, grabbing his arm. You can't. Imran looked at her. For a brief moment, the fear was gone from his face. Only one thing remained, acceptance. If I don't, he said softly, we lose him. Zion's weak voice echoed from the darkness. Papa, that was enough. Imran pulled away, and ran, through the back door, into the freezing night, toward the cabin. The air outside felt wrong. Heavy, like the world itself was watching. The cabin door stood wide open. The darkness inside, deeper than night, and the closer Imran got, the quieter everything became. No wind, no sound, no life, just that endless black waiting for him. Behind him, from inside the house, Zion's screams echoed one last time. Imran didn't stop. He reached the cabin, stood at the entrance, and looked inside. For a split second, he saw something. Shapes, faces, people, all pressed together in the darkness. Silent, watching, and among them, he saw a man, old, broken, the same old man from the fence. His eyes met Imran's, and he whispered, "Don't," but it was too late. Imran stepped forward. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, everything changed. A violent force exploded outward from the cabin. The ground shook, the trees bent, the air screamed. Inside the house, the shadows vanished instantly. Zion dropped to the floor, gasping. Free. Sana rushed to him, crying, holding him tightly. "It's okay, it's okay." The silence that followed was unnatural. Slowly, very slowly, Sana lifted her head and looked toward the backyard. The cabin door was closed again. The lock hung in place, just like before, as if nothing had ever happened, as if it had never been opened. Days passed. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. Zion never spoke about that night. Sana tried to forget, tried to move on, but something had changed, because sometimes, late at night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., she would wake up and hear it, from far away, from the backyard, knock, knock, knock. And one night, she finally looked, through the window, at the cabin, and there, standing just inside the slightly open door, was Imran, his face pale, his eyes hollow, and behind him, countless shadows, watching, waiting, and then, he raised his hand slowly, and knocked, from the inside, knock, knock, knock.